Hey everybody, so welcome back to the garden. So today what I got going on is I got compost. Now my compost here is slowly breaking down little by little, but I haven't turned this, alright? And I will tell you that turning it is important. This pile's been sitting here probably 6 months or so. Been slowly added to and slowly added to. And the way I made it was just some of this wire. It's the same wire I've got everywhere that I use for everything from trellises to fencing. The 2x4 wire, you can get it like Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever. And I just made a circle out of it after I had used it for a fence. And just had the one pipe to hold it in place. And it's held the pile up very well. But now I want to move this, because I want to stir my compost. About the best way to stir compost is to move it. So, now the one benefit of leaving your compost in a spot is you get things like sunflowers growing out of it, which is alright. We're going to try and replant that right about here. Now one of the things about compost is if you leave a pile like this in place, you're invariably going to get ants. Like right down here, I've got a nice big ant pile that I'm going to seriously irritate by moving all this. So I recommend pants just to keep them off your legs. And they crawl up your hands, you can usually catch them and knock them off. But I'll probably get bit at least once today. So now I'm going to make another circle over here. Now, one of the things about this pile that I had planned, at least, was for it to be something that warms up and then hopefully heats some of my wintertime plants. We're going to have this bad boy down, maybe. There we go. One of the advantages of having sandy soil is you can do stuff like that, just push stuff in the ground. And then we're going to hook this back on. And I'm just going to take this, put it in there, and hopefully it'll break down a little faster. I'm kind of excited to see what's on the middle here. Now I'm going to take the sides off, hopefully, and the top, and that's going to go on the bottom. Or in the center at least. With the idea being that the stuff that hasn't rotted down is the stuff we want in the middle, so it will rot down, and then hopefully the stuff on the inside will have rotted down. Which does not, well yeah, it's rotted down some. Alright. So we want to wet it down as we go along, hopefully, so it'll rot down a little better. Now this is weeds, this is grass clippings. It's primarily stuff from the garden. There's a little bit of house compost, and mostly weeds and trash and such that I pulled out of the garden. Stems, sticks, there's some cardboard in here. So, once again, try and get the dry stuff in the middle, too, you know, generally. And it's not really warm in there either. This should help to make this rot down a little better. If I can get it stirred up more, it'll start to decompose faster. Alright, so that's what I'm doing. I'll show you the results here at the end. And then we'll check and see if it's warming up. Alright, so you can see we got ants all up in here. And these are fire ants, they will bite you. So you kind of got to be careful how you go about dealing with these. I'll show you what I like to do. Alright, so hopefully we can all get them all up into a pile somewhat. And then we'll toss them all in the middle. Now ants are actually your allies. There's something you want, because they'll actually eat stuff down, break it down, aerate the soil. They're nature's janitors. They're just a pain when they start to bite you. If they didn't bite, I bet you money people would be buying ants instead of trying to kill them. Most everything in nature has a purpose. Sometimes we don't understand it, or we may not agree with it. But if they don't perform that purpose, oftentimes that's where the whole system starts to break down. So don't be afraid of ants. They're actually good for you. But they do bite. Alright, now I'm going to add some trash. So, I like to take these paper towels. One, we use them. This way I get to actually reuse them. Soak them down real good. Throw them in there. And they make good compost. Alright. And they also hold water real well, which is kind of nice. Alright, so let's throw some more compost on. Once again, trying to get the outside in, the inside out. Now, how critical is this? I mean, it's not like you got to really sort your piles or anything like that, but it does help. And stuff like that lemongrass is hard to break down. Will never break down on the outside, but it will break down on the inside over time. Now, I have and do use a rototiller when I do this in my other bins. And I gotta say that if it wasn't for the experiment of doing this, I probably wouldn't, because it's kind of a pain in the butt. Right? It's not really, it doesn't break down near as fast as the concrete bins do. from what I've seen so far. It's also much more difficult to turn, mess with. I really like my compost bins. Yeah, you can tell there's some nice compost in there, down deep. But you can tell also it's gone on anaerobic. And what that means is basically it starts to stink because you get more bad bacteria than good bacteria. It actually can become a methane producer. Basically, it's lacking oxygen because it hadn't been stirred and there's nothing in there to hold it or to allow oxygen to flow in. But what it smells like is a cow pasture. And I don't know if you've heard the stories yet, but cow manure is a fantastic thing to put in your garden as long as it hasn't been fed with grass that's got that persistent weed killer. Now this isn't paper towels, this is bathroom trash, I think. Right, yeah. Toilet paper holders, snot rags, various other things. All kind of nasties. But man, I'll tell you what, the best way to get rid of nasties is put them in the garden. Now you obviously don't want any kind of plastic stuff in here, because it's not going to break down. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not going to hurt you, and eventually you'll find it either way. So we'll spread that out a little bit. Oh my gosh, Mom, they saw our toilet paper rollers. They're going to know we use toilet paper. Ah, don't trip. Makes you look silly on the video. So bacteria and plants both are kind of the same. In that they need each other to survive, but also they need water, they need food, and they need air. That's one reason why anaerobic compost gets to stinking, is because basically all of that bacteria in there starts to die off and such because there's not enough air. Alright, and that's why we're introducing some air today. Now the idea is that you want layers of greens and browns. If you're like me, it's winter time where you're at, which I'm assuming it is, because I'm in Florida and you don't have winter time right now, you're in a really good climate. But this time of year there just aren't a lot of greens available to be putting in your compost. So you go with what you got. It'll break down, it'll just take a little longer. Now when you get down to this more solid stuff, you kind of want to break it up a little bit. Look at all them ants, especially where you find ants. The idea is you want to tear up their homes, and hopefully in the process you'll get lucky and kill the queen. Kill the queen! Which, if you're old like me, you remember that used to be an album, Killer Queen. Really good. Was it an album? Or was it just a song? Pretty sure it was an album. Now, for those of you who either can't or don't want to do this kind of effort, you can buy compost. And that's not a bad thing. All right. Compost, even the store-bought kind, is still way better than adding chemical fertilizer. All right. So don't feel bad about it. If you can't do it or don't want to do the work, you can either con somebody else into it, pay somebody else, or you just buy it. There's nothing wrong with that. So now you see all this nice black composty looking stuff, and that's what we want on top. That'll, one, it'll aerate it, and two, all that will kind of bleed down into the stuff that wasn't nice and black and help it rot down. Alright. Well, let me get this done. I'll show you the end result. Alright, so didn't get bit up too bad. Now we got the new pile, and like I said, I'll come back out here and I'll check it tomorrow. But the hope is that this will start to heat up inside, and that will in turn generate heat from my papaya trees. I got a couple of freezes coming up here soon, so even a small amount of heat will hopefully help. We did save one sunflower mama.
I saw that.
Whether or not it'll survive, I don't know, but it was growing out the side of the compost bin, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully it's protected enough there where it won't freeze, but you know, sunflowers are really a summertime thing, so I'm really surprised it was growing at all. So once again, the goal is to take the inside and put it on the outside to put it on the inside. You're just switching things around, so you can see where before it looked a lot more like this, where it's just dry grass. Now it looks a lot more like compost. All right. Now you can just let it rot like that, and eventually it will all rot down. But it becomes an anaerobic pile because you're not stirring it, you're not getting a lot of air in there. There are some other things you can do, like you can put pipes down in there with air vents in them to allow air to get more into the pile. I'm not going to go out and buy a bunch of pipes for that because I'm cheap, which may be a bad thing. You can also get in here and turn it every so often, but that's one of, like I said, one of the disadvantages of this, in my opinion. Where my compost bins over there, I can easily take and dig it out and toss it back in. This is a little more difficult because it's in a round pile inside of a cage, so you really got to open the whole cage up to make it work. Ants, you're going to get ants. I mean, that's just part of composting. Have a plan. You know, I wear nice long socks, and I, periodically go down here and brush off my boots. I wouldn't want to do this with flip-flops and shorts unless you know the ants are dead. You can try and use ant poison, but then you poison your compost. So I don't recommend it. Now one of the other advantages here, which you can't really see, you might be able to see, but if you look at this dirt, how dry and sandy that dirt is there, where the compost bin was, you see it's a little better, it's a little darker, has a little more stuff in it. All right. Honestly though, I will say that it's not nearly as much of an improvement as I would have thought it would have been. All right. That was one of the reasons why I did it. I thought, well, if I do this, then everything should drain out down from the compost pile down into the ground and basically fertilize my ground. Doesn't seem to be the case though, I'll be honest with you. We'll see. Pretty much convinced myself this is going to be another food forest area anyway, so I'll probably come through here, plant a bunch of stuff, and then fill it with wood chips. But anyway, enough about me. How are you doing? At any rate, this is what I'm doing today. I got my compost bin turned. Keep in mind that compost does put off heat. It's a great way to heat a greenhouse, an area, or hopefully a couple of trees. We'll see how well it works. Either way, thanks once again for stopping by. Do me a favor, give me a like and a subscribe if you like it and haven't already subscribed. And other than that, grow something. Get something growing in your yard. Get a compost pile started. This is the best. I mean, let me show you this real quick before we go. I just dug this compost pile up. I redid it. Man, look at how nice and black and moist and fine that compost is. Still got a little ways to go. You can see I got a little bit of charcoal in there, got some bugs in there, all kind of goodies. All right, but that's what we're going after. And if you live here in Florida with sand like I got, about your only hope is to grow as much as you can compost wise and get it put into your soil, because that sandy soil, everything washes through it. So fertilizer and everything, even water, doesn't last long. All right, anyway, enough about me. Thanks once again for stopping by. Y'all take care, and like I said, grow something.